Listen. The man breathes, shallow and swift. In the darkness, he fumbles for a match. He strikes it, illuminating his gray-stubbled face in its prosperous glow, and inflames the kerosene wick. His room lightens, a dingy yellow-white. Shadowed silhouettes, his and the things of his, dance along the walls with each flicker of the flame. The night is warm and windless, coal-black and star-speckled. He slumps at his desk exhausted in sweated long johns and woolen feet. Finding his pipe, he stuffs it, fires it, and puffs it in hopes of quelling his mind, of phantom savages with their skinning knives and scalping blades, of dogwood switches falling from nowhere and everywhere and all at once, whistling and whining in the windless air. Stone and iron-tipped shafts nip at the heels and hocks, hands and heads of men and horses. They bite with the dullness of a thud and the sharpness of a tooth. Screams and moans echo the stone-strewn walls. Phantom troopers, horsed and unhorsed, appear and disappear in the ghostly light of the desert morning. The wail of one silences all as specters fall on him as carrion upon a corpse. They prey upon his writhing being as dermestids on the dead. As wolves to raw meat, they rip and tear, their mouths red with gore. They lap black blood with their slim tongues and belch human flesh, their bellies full to bursting. Then he is no more. Gagging and sweated from top knot to toe, the man woke, his breathing swift and shallow, his tongue bleeding where he gnawed his own flesh. He drew on his pipe. Hot smoke singed the wound. He drew again. Smoke curled about his head and haloed in the light of the lamp before dissolving into the darkness of that dismal night. He scratched an itch on his knee from something that bit or poked or stung him in the morning of that day. In the hellish West Texas desert, something always bit, poked, or stung. He glanced again at the scrap of paper Corporal Chevalier delivered that morning. It bore the hand of Dr. Anderson. The colonel had no time to read it at the time. His day was spent presiding over the burial of Sergeant Taylor, drafting a report for the War Department of the previous day's engagement with Victorio and his Cheyennes Apaches, and composing a letter of condolence to the sergeant's family. With the day spent, he retreated to his quarters where he nibbled at his meal and read the doctor's note. It troubled him, as did the day's and the previous day's events. He penned his thoughts into a journal and eyed over passages from the Bible. He laid on his cot, craving rest he knew would not come, and woke with a heave in his sweat-soaked Union suit. He felt hollow-souled. At his desk he worked the tobacco with his penknife and an empty cartridge and sucked in the smoke. He scanned the doctor's message again. It's a universal truth, as true as the fact that birds fly in the air and fish swim in the water, that acts of extreme cruelty are met in kind or with means crueler still by an enemy given already to dehumanizing cruelty. To put it crudely, violence begets violence, as surely as a jackass begets a jackass, a bitch begets a litter of bitches, and a fool begets more folly. It's the devil's own business. If you persist in it, you're a damn fool, Ethan Pendleton. Those are the opening lines of Derrick G. Jeter's novel, Blood Touching Blood. And they are a powerful introduction to the protagonist, Colonel Ethan Pendleton, and they set the tone for what is to come. That opening reading of just a few lines should be enough to make many of you go out and order yourself a copy right now. For those of you that are more stubborn, need more convincing, then I'll try to say a few more words of encouragement to get you to do that. The power of the writing itself should be more than enough cause for those that appreciate well-crafted, well-written literature, and that's what this book is. Now, I've never met Derrick G. Jeter, but I have read his writing in the various forms that he has selected to share it, and I have briefly corresponded with him. He was kind enough once to have participated in a survey I did a couple of years ago about Texas, and I frequently go over the answers to this survey and look over the results and find guidance and inspiration in the answers that people gave me. So here's what I know about him. Derrick G. Jeter is a Texan and an author. He is not to be confused with the great baseball player Derrick Jeter. But like that shortstop, he shares a very important trait. He is great at what he does. He is great at sharing the history of Texas and his love for Texas. He is great at putting words down, whether on a screen or a piece of paper, in a way this man that I have never met is a brother to me. Not a brother by blood, but a brother in shared interests and loves. He's a man of faith. I know that about him. He's a man that loves his family. I know that about him. He loves books. He loves reading, great writing. He loves the power of words. He loves ideas. He loves the ideas that America and Texas are founded on. He loves the history of Texas and loves to share stories about its history. He recognizes that everything in that history is not perfect, but he also recognizes that the ideals we hold in common can make the world better. Were we to look deeper, there would probably be many things about which we disagree. That's just the way things are. But these things we hold in common. I know these things about him because I have read his writing. And for that reason, having read his words, I was excited to learn that he was publishing a novel. A literary Western is how he described it in advance. Based on my experience reading his writing, I expected it to be a good book. I did not expect the 338 pages of the book that I read slowly following its publication on December 1st, 2024. I loved it. And because I loved it, I have slowly considered the way I would share my thoughts. Everyone looks at works of art in different ways. Everyone does not see what I see when I look at a painting or a sculpture. Everyone does not enjoy the same music that I do or react to a book the same way that I do. But some do, and I think that there are a lot of people that appreciate the things similar to the way I do that will love this book as well. Like me and many of you, Mr. Jeter appreciates the power and importance of storytelling. He has said, quote, "I believe words are the only objects of human creation that endure through the ages. Pyramids decay, buildings crumble, paintings fade. But words, whether 3,000 years old or 3 minutes old, possess the potential to enter the soul as fresh and as forceful as the day they were first uttered or penned." End quote. These words are truth if truth has ever been told. I agree wholeheartedly with his sentiments on that. And as he describes himself, Jeter is 1836% purebred, open-range native son of the great Lone Star, who tells stories about the people, the places, and the past of his own blood's country. He holds a Master of Theology degree from Dallas Theological Seminary, and he served as a writer for the Creative Ministries Department of Insight for Living Ministries. And he's also lent his skills to co-authoring over 20 books, and he's written 3 books of nonfiction on his own. And I believe that Blood Touching Blood, this book I'm talking about, is his first novel. His nonfiction includes O America, in which he shares his manifesto on liberty. In it, he, quote, uses history as a guide, both American and ancient, and he encourages us to follow a plan of action that calls upon the wisdom of the past to encourage us to be brave and to live free in the present. Another work he's done is Our Day of Dependence, and this is a book that shares lessons learned from the daring and dedication of the Pilgrims in establishing a colony of faith on the shores of Plymouth. And using the Pilgrims as an example, Derrick offers an enduring lesson for all of us today. And in a 911 for 9/11, Derrick wrestles with philosophical questions raised by the tragedy of September 11th, 2001. He also has an excellent newsletter named Yology, Y''ALLOGY, that you can read on Substack, in which he shares his writings on Texas and Texas history. As he describes it, like the Lone Star, Longhorn cattle, armadillos, cowboys, and jalapenos, y'all embodies the spirit of Texas. Yology captures that spirit, its valor and swagger. It's a celebration of all things Texas, from the Alamo to Zavala. All of these are things that I thought I'd share in the hopes that if any of it is of interest to you, then you can check them out. Ultimately, none of what I've shared matters when it comes to the book Blood Touching Blood. Now, if it makes you interested in reading the novel, then sharing it is worthwhile. But I don't read or reread a novel by Larry McMurtry or Cormac McCarthy or any of the other great writers that I've learned to love because of their biography. I read their works because of the words and the stories on the pages of the books that they have written. The novel Blood Touching Blood, like many great works of art, stands alone and can be appreciated on its own merits independent of the artist. That being said, I believe there is value in reading all of Mr. Jeter's creative endeavors. Now, the book was published on December 1st, 2024 by Jeter's own Yology Press, which is a small independent publishing house that specializes in literary fiction within the Western tradition and literary nonfiction of the American West. Along with its Texcentric newsletter, Yology, Yology Press also publishes books written about Texas, by Texans, for Texans, and those who love Texas. The novel is, as I said, a literary Western. It is a work of fiction in which Mr. Jeter has used history to shape the story. I don't want to spoil much of what happens in the book, but the opening lines I read at the beginning of this episode were preceded by some epigraphs that can help you get an idea of the book's theme and content. The first is from Hosea. They employ violence, so bloodshed follows bloodshed. This is followed by the earth was flooded with blood, which is from Homer's The Iliad. Watch me rise, dripping with my enemy's blood, and that's from Beowulf. It will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood. That's from the tragedy of Macbeth. And the final epigraph is, again, Shakespeare, from the lamentable tragedy of Titus Andronicus. Blood and revenge are hammering in my head. And these lines are a perfect base for you to understand what is going to happen in this book. In the author note for the book, he explains that he first encountered the basic storyline while he was working and doing research on another novel about the love affair between a Colonel Albert C. Pelton and a Spanish girl named Bella that was originally told in the January 25th, 1883 edition of the Daily San Antonio Express. And it was republished in 1884 by Andrew Jackson Sowell in Rangers and Pioneers of Texas. And he used that story and the history around it to build his novel. And he explains that he took liberties with the original story to fit the narrative of this novel. So this is a historical fiction, but he is creating a story in a historical setting, and he will move things around, even locations around and events from one place to another. He also shares a note on the history in the novel before you dive into the main story. And he said, place names in this work of fiction are geographical, including Rancho de los Cabras, Certain personalities such as Victorio, Lozin, Geronimo, Cochise, and Mangus Coloradus are historical, as well as some of the cavalrymen depicted in the book. Certain battle sequences are adapted from actual engagements between Victorio's Chehalis warriors and the United States cavalry, some of which took place in New Mexico, but for his narrative, he relocated them into the high desert of far west Texas. And the other skirmishes in the book are works of his imagination. The description offered online summarizing what the book is about is as close as I'm going to get into revealing what actually happens in the book. It reads, Colonel Ethan Pendleton is the commander of Fort Davis, a United States cavalry post on the far reaches of the West Texas frontier. He's a man haunted by the memory of a murdered wife, the ghost of massacred and mutilated men, and the spirits of brutalized enemies. For 15 years, these specters visit his dreams. Post physician Elijah Anderson is the colonel's friend. To ease the doctor's mind, the doctor prescribes an old-fashioned remedy, forgiveness. But Colonel Pendleton believes he's too far gone for that. He has surrendered sword and soul to violence and vengeance. By the summer of 1880, his humanity is nearly eaten through. He feels like a jack-o'-lantern scooped out, its substance removed and tossed aside. His nighttime companions judge him for his inhumanity, but he's compelled to continue in the devil's business, punishing those who took the life of his wife and the scalps of his men. The Apache chief Victorio and his Chehalis were not responsible for Isabella Pendleton's death, but they have killed buffalo soldiers and taken scalps, and that's all that Colonel Pendleton needed to know. He's determined to bring Victorio to heel, but catching the ghost-like Apache proves to be as difficult as driving away his tortured memories. The last thing the colonel needs is to be saddled by the War Department with a rank-hungry lieutenant who has no frontier experience, and yet Caleb Dancy might prove to be the man who can bring peace to the colonel's troubled spirit. Blood Touching Blood probes the mystery of how violence begets violence, how the lust for vengeance hollows out the human soul, and whether one who gives himself over to such dark designs can find redemption. And that's a pretty accurate summary. That actually gives a little bit more than maybe I should have, but it's what you would read if you go look at the summary online about the book. And it pretty much sums up what's happening when the book begins. This new guy from the East Coast, Caleb Dancy, shows up, and he doesn't necessarily approve of how the colonel is conducting things. He's surprised at the respect that Colonel Pendleton has for the Apaches, great respect for them, but he's also surprised at the brutality that he inflicts when he's confronting them. And I don't want to give much more away from it. There's some conflict between Caleb Dancy and Colonel Pendleton. There's some conflict between Colonel Pendleton and his friend, the doctor. And then there's the men that serve under Colonel Pendleton, the Buffalo Soldiers, black men that served in the United States cavalry and the Indian Wars after the Civil War. And you'll love them, that the way he paints them in the book is with great detail and concern for presenting them as real people and not just cardboard characters that are there to support Colonel Pendleton and his campaign. That last line, blood touching blood, probes the mystery of how violence begins violence, how the lust for vengeance hollows out the human soul, and whether one who gives himself over to such dark designs can find redemption is really the core of the book. And like I said, it's pretty accurate. I can't really improve on that. I'm not going to try to. As I said earlier, I didn't know what to expect from the novel. I knew that Mr. Jeter knows the history of Texas and the West, and like his hero, Larry McMurtry, He uses that knowledge of history and bends it to fit the narrative of the story he is telling. It is not a history book, but there is still truth in the novel's pages, powerful truths, and it will inspire you. It inspired me to actually look up the actual details of a lot of things that are in it and places that are in it, and you can use it as a jumping off point for getting into the real history. But as a work of art, it stands alone as a great contribution to books written by a Texan, set in Texas, and just a contribution for people that love good stories. In the book, you meet several characters in addition to the main ones, and they have dimension and humanity, like I said, instead of just being one-dimensional supporting characters. And every violent encounter in the novel will have you fearing for the impending doom that is coming for potentially one of them. It's kind of like the waves of the Gulf of Mexico. The narrative has moments of calm, and then the wave of that impending doom just crashes into you. And there are passages so gruesome and violent and stunning that there were times I had to set the book aside just to catch my breath and go back and read it again and then pause again, because there is real horror on these pages. And there are also pages that are filled with grace and hope and faith. And there is love in this novel. One of the strengths of the novel is how the eloquent writing ties together all of these things into something more than a stereotypical paperback Western. My favorite Texas writer is probably John Graves. He was a veteran of World War II who decided he wanted to write novels, kind of in the mode of Ernest Hemingway. He went to Europe and lost himself to try to start a writing career. And he ended up having a career writing about life, history in Texas. Not a bad way to spend your life and your career, writing about those things. I also love the fiction and works of Larry McMurtry, Elmer Kelton, and Cormac McCarthy. And I've read almost everything that they publish except for a couple of strays from them that I haven't herded into my library quite yet. So there are a few that I have to look forward to. I can say that Blood Touching Blood is a book for you if you love McMurtry, Kelton, or McCarthy. It is not a McMurtry, Kelton, or McCarthy book, but it does flow with the literary skill you come to expect from reading a McMurtry story. And it also has the grace and humane respect for people that you can expect from an Elmer Kelton book. And it also has grim and dark and bloody and violent elements that McCarthy was known for. It reminds me at times of the best of all three. And to top it all off, Jeter finds the time to write about life, history in Texas like John Graves. Jeter is not writing like McMurtry, Kelton, McCarthy, or Graves, and that's okay because he has his own style, and that's the greatest compliment I can give him. He has his own style that needs to be read and reread, and if you like any of those authors, you will probably like this novel. The highest compliment I can give him is that Blood Touching Blood is a Derrick Jeter novel, and I'm biting at the bit and eagerly awaiting the next one I hope he's working on right now so that the readers of Texas and the world can enjoy it and appreciate what he has to offer there. Based on what I had read by him before, his work on y'allology and his daily Texas history posts on social media, I knew he was a good writer. I knew he was a great writer. But this work surpassed my already high expectations. When I finished reading it, I wanted to start it over again. And I only do that with a few books, and it is worthy to be included with them. And I envy everyone who gets to read it for the first time. So as soon as you're finished listening to this, go get a copy and get started. It's available as an ebook, and it's available in hardcover as well. And the cover is really beautiful as well. You'll see when you go look it up. And you can go to his website to find it, DerrickJeter.com. That's DerrickJeter. You can go to Amazon and look up books by Derrick G. Jeter, Jeter. And you can look up Y''ALLOGY, Theology, and you can find a way to get the book there as well. And you can go to Substack and look up Theology, and you can find information about the book is there as well. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to his newsletter and learn a little bit more about Texas from him. And that's going to do it. That's my summary of a really good book that I was really happy to read. The story shared in the book, along with the historical context, the quality of the writing, the descriptive scenes of the land, and the interior landscape of the characters are superb. You will feel the sun beating down on you and taste the dust in the wind. You will want to travel to these very real places he describes with the skill of a landscape artist. You will experience the terror of frontier battle and have a better understanding of the life of the cavalryman on the Texas borderland, and you'll be hungry for more.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality bikes, which might lead to another discovery. Getting back on the saddle isn't always comfortable. Good news is Sierra has massage guns. And chafe wipes, too. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, whatever the occasion, it just got a little more personal with meaningful photo gifts from Shutterfly. Add a silly photo to a gold-rimmed mug for your bestie. Put your sweet puppy on a cozy fleece blanket for your teen. Gift your husband a desktop plaque featuring all the kids. Enjoy 40% off orders over $29 with code POD40 at Shutterfly.com and make something that means something.
So once you finish Blood Touching Blood and you want another book in the same genre and in the same time period that tackles the world of West Texas and the Buffalo Soldiers and the conflict with the Native Americans, I would recommend go pick up a copy of Elmer Kelton's The Wolf and the Buffalo. It's a book that follows the life of Gideon Ledbetter, a freedman who had been enslaved. And after the war ends, he has no money, no land, and he's drawn into the army by a recruiter who makes it look like a great way of life. And he ends up finding that it's a lot more dangerous and hard than the recruiter made it out. And you also get an interesting perspective from a Comanche's perspective in this book. So you can't really go wrong with anything by Elmer Kelton. And apparently, if we can judge by this first novel, you can't really go wrong with anything by Derrick G. Jeter. It's a great, great book. Get yourself a copy of Blood Touching Blood today. Thanks to Derek McClendon for providing the theme music, walking through history for Texas History Lessons. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Be sure to share episodes. If you enjoy this book, share it. If you love something, share it. There's plenty of hate in the world, so we need a little bit more people sharing and promoting things that they actually enjoy and care about. We'll see you next time with another episode of Texas History Lessons. So take care of yourself, take care of one another, be kind. Adios.